For decades, stories of towering, human-like beings were dismissed as folklore, misidentification, or wishful fear. Experts said there was no data, no body, no proof. Then the footage appeared. Not a single clip, but moments, caught on camera in places where science claimed nothing should exist. Shapes that move with intent, proportions that defy known biology. Silence where panic should erupt. Scientists were shocked not by what the camera captured, but by what the evidence refused to explain. These were not random shadows or digital tricks. They were events with weight, balance, and consequence. If no one believed because the truth felt impossible, what happens when the impossible is recorded? Tonight, we examine the footage that forced experts to stop laughing and start questioning everything they thought they knew. The footage surfaced after a routine floodplain survey, filmed on camera by a local angler at dawn, at a stretch of river known for low visibility and heavy sediment. Tall, matted, human-shaped. Water breaks around its legs with no urgency. Something heavy swings from its grip, resisting the current. What no one believed becomes terrifying when fishermen caught the moment a massive figure lifts a crocodilian body from shallow water, caught on without edits or cuts, as if gravity itself briefly paused to allow the motion. The body does not thrash, the figure does not strain. The lift appears economical, practiced, and disturbingly calm. Scientists reviewing the clip were shocked by the gait analysis. A fully bipedal stride with asymmetrical load-bearing, inconsistent with bears and incompatible with known primate movement, yet too controlled to be explained by hoax rigs or costume constraints. The hips rotate under load. The shoulders compensate independently. Thermal frames scanned later reveal residual heat patterns concentrated where fingers should not flex that way, suggesting grip strength exceeding human limits, and joint articulation refined through long-term adaptation. This implies an ancient strength shaped by silence, depth, and repeated interaction with water environments. If this was filmed and still dismissed, what else has the river carried past us, invisible to the world by choice rather than chance? The forest gesture recovered from a damaged trail camera. The clip was filmed on camera deep within old-growth forest, an area largely unchanged for centuries and rarely disturbed by modern movement. Broad shoulders, low head, slow breath. An arm rises without tension. Fingers curl, almost deliberate, then stop. No one believed until scientists were shocked by the precision of the motion. The hand gesture mirrors known primate signaling structures, yet exceeds documented ranges in finger separation, wrist rotation, and muscular control. The restraint is what makes it terrifying. There is no display behavior, no threat posture, no attempt to flee the lens. Frame-by-frame scans reveal a cranial slope in limb ratios that echo myths of the Wendigo, an ancient human-like form associated with hunger, isolation, and silence. But when stripped of folklore, the biomechanical data still resists classification within known evolutionary branches. The neck angle remains stable. The shoulders do not rise. The breathing pattern stays controlled. The camera caught on a moment that feels watched back, as if observation itself were reciprocal, and the forest instructed the gesture to be filmed rather than interrupted. If this is not a relic of forgotten biology, what theory explains a mind capable of signaling, remembering, and withholding itself while remaining unseen by the world? Winter crossing. This clip arrived anonymously, filmed on camera during a silent snowfall at unknown coordinates, where wind noise and human activity were absent. Dark mass, upright, distant. Footsteps vanish into white before forming. Trees hold their breath, unmoving. Caught on a frozen corridor between tree lines, the figure advances with terrifying efficiency. No one believed until scientists were shocked by the absence of trail disturbance where weight should sink, scatter snow, or fracture crusted ice. The surface remains largely intact, as if pressure were redistributed rather than applied. High contrast scans suggest a mass distribution pattern designed to minimize imprint, favoring balance and surface adaptation over speed. This implies an evolutionary response refined in ancient environments where being seen meant extinction, and survival depended on passing through terrain without announcing presence. Nothing lunges, nothing chases. There is no reaction to the camera's position, no hesitation, no deviation from course. Yet the quiet implies intent, as if the land itself allowed this moment to be filmed for a reason beyond accident. When something can cross winter without leaving history behind, what else moves beside us, unseen by the world, because it learned long ago how not to be remembered? Night pair encounter. The footage was leaked from a private wildlife archive, filmed on camera shortly after midnight in a forest corridor known for limited visibility and minimal human traffic. Two upright forms, reflective eyes, heavy torsos. One advances with measured steps. The other remains low, watching without movement. What no one believed becomes terrifying when the figures are caught on moving together with synchronized pacing, a behavior fishermen caught describing only in deep-water predators that hunt cooperatively without sound. The spacing between them never changes. The rhythm remains constant, as if governed by an internal signal rather than sight. Scientists reviewing the infrared frames were shocked by proportional limb symmetry and mass distribution inconsistent with known primates. The shoulder width exceeds human norms, yet the arm swing remains minimal, conserving energy. The bodies appear scanned by light rather than illuminated, absorbing darkness instead of reflecting it, suggesting an ancient adaptation favoring invisibility, silence, and group coordination. If this was truly filmed, cataloged, and set aside without explanation, what does it imply about how long these human-like forms have been moving through the world together, unseen and unchallenged? The striking forms captured unexpectedly by a passing vehicle camera. The scene was filmed on camera along a frozen mountain road at dusk, where sound carries far and escape is limited. Massive frames, raised arms, explosive motion. Snow erupts outward. Silence follows impact. No one believed until the encounter was caught on showing coordinated aggression without vocalization. A terrifying trait documented in predatory legends where dominance is established through motion alone. The timing is precise. The exchange lasts seconds, neither figure retreats immediately. Scientists were shocked as scanned frames revealed joint articulation exceeding human limits, particularly in shoulder rotation and elbow extension, while body proportions echoed descriptions of Nephilim, ancient human-like giants said to predate recorded history. The mass-to-speed ratio defies expected biomechanics. Unlike staged combat or territorial disputes observed in animals, neither figure displays hesitation or defensive posturing, suggesting instinctive engagement rather than performance. If these movements mirror a form remembered only in myth, are we witnessing folklore misidentified through modern lenses, or evidence of something the world was never meant to classify? Blurred shore figure. This footage surfaced online without attribution, caught on in degraded resolution. The movement remains terrifying because mass displacement is clearly visible even when form is unclear, something fishermen caught noting when large bodies exit shallow water without panic. Ripples spread before the shape resolves. Vegetation shifts under unseen weight. Scientists analyzing the scanned frames were shocked that motion vectors remain consistent despite optical failure, indicating real spatial depth rather than digital artifact or compression error. The blur persists across frames, resisting correction. When an image refuses clarity yet preserves physical consequence, what does that suggest about how reality decides which elements of the world are allowed to be seen and which are meant to remain unresolved? Forest displacement. This footage surfaced from a handheld recording filmed on camera deep inside unmanaged woodland near dusk, where visibility drops and sound should travel clearly. Broken branches, pressed grass, no animal calls. Something moves beyond the trees. The forest goes silent abruptly. Caught on amid fallen trunks, the disturbance becomes terrifying when no known animal is visible. A pattern fishermen caught describing moments before sudden water displacement in still environments. The movement leaves evidence without revealing its source. Scientists examining scanned frames were shocked by the implied mass. Ground deformation exceeds that caused by elk or bear, yet the motion remains upright, steady, and deliberate. The pressure distribution suggests bipedal travel under significant load. Some researchers note parallels to Wendigo legends, human-like forms associated with starvation and isolation. But stripped of myth, the physics alone suggest an ancient presence adapted to avoid detection. If an invisible force can reshape a forest while withholding its form, what does that imply about how much of the world continues to move just beyond our perception? Silent close-up. The clip appeared after a private upload, filmed on camera at unknown coordinates during daylight, with no contextual markers beyond vegetation and shadow. A massive face, deep-set eyes, heavy brow, hair frames the skull in uneven layers. The gaze does not blink, even as the camera steadies. What no one believed turns terrifying when the image is caught on at intimate range, as if the subject allowed itself to be filmed rather than surprised by the lens. There is no recoil, no flinch, no attempt to withdraw. The distance remains constant, deliberate. Scientists reviewing the scan frames were shocked by facial ratios. The nasal bridge, orbital depth, and jaw mass align more closely with early hominin reconstructions than with modern apes or humans. Skin texture shows irregular light absorption, and micro movements suggest controlled muscle tension rather than instinctive reaction. There is no aggressive display, only a sustained stillness that implies awareness of observation, even assessment. When something human-like meets the lens without fear or curiosity, what does that suggest about how long it has understood the world watching it? Hilltop witness. This footage surfaced from a rural phone recording, filmed on camera across open grassland under a clear sky, where distance offers no distortion. A lone figure, upright stance, impossible distance, no cover, no urgency in its posture. Caught on at the ridgeline, the presence becomes terrifying because scale remains consistent despite distance. Something fishermen caught noting when massive bodies break the surface far offshore without appearing larger or smaller. The figure neither approaches nor retreats. It simply remains. Scientists measuring the scan frames were shocked that stride cadence matches human timing, while overall body height exceeds known limits. Limb proportions suggest balance optimized for open terrain rather than concealment. The silhouette resists atmospheric blur. Some researchers reference Nephilim myths, ancient human-like beings said to walk openly before being erased. But even without legend, the biomechanics resist simple explanation within known species. If something can stand exposed where concealment is impossible, what does that suggest about what the world was never meant to question? Partial presence. The material circulated briefly online, filmed on camera during sudden motion at close range, before being removed without explanation. Blurred mass, dark hair, unstable focus. The frame shakes violently. Detail collapses under motion. What no one believed becomes terrifying when the form is caught on resisting clarity, while environmental movement confirms physical presence. Something fishermen caught describing when water reacts before a shape is fully seen. Shadows shift, background elements displace. Scientists analyzing the scan motion vectors were shocked that depth cues persist despite optical failure, indicating a real object interacting with space rather than a digital artifact. The blur remains consistent across frames, suggesting interference rather than error. The image behaves as if visibility itself is disrupted around the subject, collapsing detail without removing consequence. When something can be filmed altering space while refusing to resolve into form, what does that reveal about the limits of what the world allows us to perceive? Pathway intrusion. The material leaked from a motion-triggered trail unit, filmed on camera at night along a narrow forest path used intermittently by hikers. A tall mass, upright posture, indistinct edges. Leaves remain still. Sound disappears as if absorbed. What no one believed becomes terrifying when the shape is caught on advancing without disturbing undergrowth. A level of control fishermen caught associating only with deep-water hunters moving beneath a calm surface. The spacing of steps remains precise, no branches snap, no foliage bends outward. Scientists reviewing the scanned infrared frames were shocked by limb cadence. The stride matches human timing almost exactly, while shoulder height exceeds expected limits by a significant margin. The hips stabilize independently, suggesting practiced balance rather than improvised motion. The silhouette absorbs light rather than reflecting it, resisting contrast even under infrared illumination, implying an adaptation that favors silence and invisibility over speed or intimidation. If something can be filmed entering a corridor shaped by human movement without announcing itself, what does that imply about how long it has been sharing the world beside us, watching, learning, and passing unnoticed? Juvenile shadow. The recording circulated briefly, filmed on camera at night from a low-mounted forest unit positioned near a game trail. A massive lead figure, a smaller follower, shared direction. Eyes reflect briefly. Distance closes steadily. What no one believed becomes terrifying when the pair is caught on moving together without haste, something fishermen caught noting when large bodies guide smaller ones through strong currents. The pace never accelerates. The spacing remains constant. Scientists analyzing the scan sequence were shocked that gait synchronization persists despite significant size disparity, indicating learned coordination rather than instinct alone. The smaller form adjusts step length and posture to match the leader's rhythm. The juvenile shadow mirrors stance, shoulder angle, and distance with increasing precision, suggesting the transmission of movement patterns rather than simple following. There is teaching implied without gesture or sound. When learning becomes visible only through silence and motion, what does that imply about generations growing unseen within the world we assume is empty? Watch through leaves. The footage surfaced from a compressed news archive filmed on camera by a field researcher during a brief forest survey intended to map canopy density. A dark face, partial cover, motionless eyes. Branches frame the view like deliberate curtains. Light flickers, then stops, as if the scene stabilizes itself. What no one believed becomes terrifying when the figure is caught on staring from concealment, neither retreating nor advancing. The distance remains fixed. The gaze does not break. The posture suggests choice rather than hesitation. Scientists reviewing the scanned frames were shocked by the facial depth and eye spacing, inconsistent with bears yet lacking defining traits of known primates. The skull profile implies vertical orientation optimized for frontal observation, not ambush. The stillness suggests calculated exposure, as if observation itself were the objective rather than escape or defense. No attempt is made to hide further. No reaction follows detection. If something chooses when and how it is filmed instead of fleeing the lens, what does that imply about who is truly observing the world and who merely believes they are unseen? Seated observer. This clip emerged from a handheld recording filmed on camera deep in woodland during daylight, when visibility is clear and movement is easily detected. A massive form, seated posture, arms drawn inward. The body does not sway. The forest remains quiet, undisturbed. Caught on in a resting position, the presence becomes terrifying because it shows no urgency. A behavior fishermen caught noting in apex predators conserving strength between actions. The posture is stable, the weight appears evenly distributed. There is no sign of tension or readiness to flee. Scientists studying the scanned footage were shocked by the torso length and shoulder roll, proportions echoed in Nephilim legends describing ancient human-like giants. Yet the spine alignment suggests comfort rather than dominance, familiarity rather than threat. Even without myth, the posture implies awareness without fear, as if the environment itself is considered the secure territory. The figure does not acknowledge the camera, yet does not avoid it. If something can rest openly where humans feel exposed and alert, what does that reveal about which species the world was built to protect and which merely pass through it? Fence line standoff. The recording circulated online after being filmed on camera by a rural night unit positioned near a fenced property on the edge of farmland. A towering figure, hands resting on wood, eyes reflecting faint light. A dog approaches cautiously. Neither retreats. What no one believed becomes terrifying when the encounter is caught on showing no aggression, only assessment, something fishermen caught describing when large bodies test resistance in water before advancing. The figure remains still. The animal hesitates. The distance stabilizes. Scientists examining the scanned frames were shocked by the grip width and forearm mass, exceeding human capability while maintaining precise balance against the fence. The posture suggests control rather than restraint forced by fear. The animal reacts, alert, uncertain, but the figure does not pursue, does not dominate, and does not withdraw. The interaction ends without escalation. When a human-like form chooses restraint over dominance at the edge of human territory, what does that suggest about an intelligence living quietly within the world we once assumed belonged only to us? Roadside stillness. The footage was filmed on camera by a vehicle recorder along a rural road at night, seconds after headlights cut through tall grass. A tall figure, upright, featureless at range. No reflective markers. No movement as the car slows. What no one believed becomes terrifying when the figure is caught on remaining perfectly still. A posture fishermen caught associating with large predators, conserving energy before action. The road empties around it. The distance closes without reaction. Scientists reviewing the scan frames were shocked by shoulder height exceeding human norms, while balance remains centered, suggesting controlled mass distribution rather than startle response. Headlight beams do not reflect from fabric or skin, as if the surface absorbs light. The silence deepens. The world narrows to posture alone. If something can be filmed standing calmly where humans hesitate to stop, what does that suggest about how long it has known these roads, and the world moving past it unseen? What you've seen in this video was never meant to stand alone. Each piece of footage is not an answer, but a fragment torn from a much larger pattern that refuses to stay hidden. These beings do not appear randomly. They emerge, vanish, and reappear as if the world itself decides when they can be seen. Science pauses here, belief hesitates, and the question shifts from, is this real, to why now? Because beyond this footage there are others, recorded in different places, different years, different conditions, yet bound by the same silence, the same impossible anatomy, the same feeling of being observed rather than observing. The next video doesn't explain more. It reveals something new. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee the pattern forming. Subscribe to Mystery Footage Uncovered, not to believe blindly, but to keep watching where the world asks us not to. The evidence doesn't end here. It's only shifting locations.